Folks, who would have guessed that grad school takes up a lot of your time? Nevertheless, it is that time of year once again, and so I wanted to at least get something out that was related to the holidays before we head over into the new year. And with the holidays being a time of reminiscing and being nostalgic for things that you've done with family members in the past, I wanted to look at somebody that we haven't talked about in quite a while. And to preface before we jump into it, I should say, again, legally, any joke I make about Paul being a serial killer is a joke. Yes, folks, today we are going to take another look at our favorite VHS serial killer chef, Paul 4608. Initially, I was going to have us sit down and watch his Christmas cake on a budget video, but upon watching it, it was about just 10 minutes of him whisking something with a hand mixer out of frame, so I don't think that would make for the best Christmas special. So in lieu of a proper Christmas themed video from Paul, I figured let's take a look at another one of his more popular videos, which is Castle Cake. Well, I should be a little bit more descriptive than that. It is titled Castle Cake Suitable for Kids Party. Why he felt the need to add that onto the title, I'm not sure. Perhaps he'll specify within the video. Before we begin, as always, make sure to leave a like and subscribe.
Welcome to another video at Yorkshire Chef. Today I'm going to show you how to make a castle cake, and it's a cake in shape of a castle, and basically how to save a few quid while you're doing it. So let's get on with it.
So if you're jumping into the series from here, you may be questioning exactly why we refer to Paul as the VHS serial killer chef. I think the aesthetic of these videos alone is kind of enough to explain that. The low color grade lighting, the grainy filter, the audio coming only in the left ear. Don't worry, I hopefully have fixed that for you guys in post. It's all just a culmination of uneasiness that results in something truly special, especially if you've seen the way that he handles food with reckless abandon in the past.
Cake I made earlier, I've already made this one.
No, I don't know what that was. I hope I don't ever find out what that was. So to avoid going back through that static hell, I will recap what I can gain from what he said. Essentially, he made this cake prior, and in order to give it a more realistic castle appearance, he put in gray food coloring.
And another tip to save money, so you don't have to spend a fortune on cake tins, is to use a frying pan. Basically, you take the handle off the frying pan, put your mixture in frying pan, put your mixture in pan.
So for those of you that may not be able to quite understand what he's saying, either through the accent or because of the video quality, I will continue to paraphrase. Essentially, he says in order to have a cost-cutting measure rather than going out and buying a cake tin in order to bake your cake in, just use a pot and take the handle off and cook it in there. Why the hell not? I mean, just looking at this thing, I can already tell that it's going to be, for a lack of a better term, squidgy. It just appears very, very dense. Sort of like Paul.
And it saves you buying a cake tin. What you basically need for this project is...
Again, I didn't edit that in. I had nothing to do with it. If I wake up dead in my house in 7 days from mysterious causes, you know the reason. I feel like I've already made that joke before.
You need 4 baked bean tins like this, and top's been taken off and so has the bottom. And you don't need to spend a fortune on cake moulds for this, just use 4 bean tins.
Something interesting about this video is the fact that he appears to have the AV cables for his camcorder wired into the TV behind him. I'm assuming he's using this as his own personal monitor of sorts so he can properly frame things or, see the result that is going to be recorded. But the fact that it's in frame for us just adds to the ambiance of it all. And yes, he is using baked bean cans as essentially cookie cutters or cake cutters. We're not going to dwell on that for too long.
This is how it came out of the oven, and basically it looks a bit like your granny's worst sofa cushion. So what we need to do is want to get this stoned effect, and when it comes out of the oven it's got a sort of a crust on it, so we want to get rid of that. So we've got our stoned effects.
So as we continue to move forward, we're deciphering more and more information from this. A, he knows that it looks bad, which is why he's cutting off the upper crust, apparently, to give it that stony appearance, and that the cake apparently has currants in it.
So just do that, just slice it off, and what we're getting there is we're getting a sort of a gnarly, stoned effect like you'd see on a castle.
Are we getting a gnarly stoned effect like you'd see on a castle? All I'm seeing is a cake that is simultaneously falling apart from being too frail and being so thick and lumpy that it won't fall apart. It's essentially become a Schrodinger's cake of, unless I can physically touch it and feel it, I don't know what the texture of this thing is. God, if I just showed you this frame right here, zoomed in, cropped in on the cake, what would you think it is? I'd think it was just like a photo of like some swampland.
Let's get camera on a different angle.
Yeah, because that's a perfectly fine, that's a perfectly cromulent angle, Paul.
Add as much flour to the size of the cake that you want. So that's as big as cake's gonna be that we need.
The amount of flour does not equal to the size your cake is going to be. Does Paul not have, like, volume comprehension? Is he still going through, like, the stages of cerebral development that you would in early childhood?
100 grams of sugar. It'd probably say about 100 grams of sugar. The reason we add sugar to a cake is to tone sweetness up, and it depends how sweet you want your cake.
I can't tell what that thing is. Is it a vase with like floral decorating on the outside and you just can't tell due to the camera quality? Or is it what I think it is and it's just an empty jug that started to mold over on the inside?
And we're going to add a bit of ginger flavour into this, and also we're going to use mixed spice.
Paul, your pants tag is coming out of your waist. Also, your sweater is too short.
Get that mixed in. Next, you want to add. I'm not using eggs. I never use eggs when I make a cake because I'm not too keen on them. Basically, they don't really do much for it.
Well, that explains a hell of a lot. Paul isn't keen on eggs, so he doesn't use them in his cake, which would explain why the previous result we saw was a clumpy, lumpy, stodgy, crumbly mess. Of course, that's not to say that you can't make cakes without eggs. Usually you want to, otherwise it's going to be less airy and very flat.
Next, you want your milk, and to start with, I go for about half a cup of milk to start with. Then you want to add your black food colouring to your milk, and it comes out as a grey mixture, which is what you want, and you just pour that in.
So as far as we know, from what we've seen, his cake mixture is all these dry ingredients and about half a cup of milk.
Next thing you want to do is pour your mixture into improvised cake molds.
That thing must be a textural nightmare. You can even tell just by looking at a freeze frame of it that it's clumpy and not homogenized.
So just spoon that into these 4 cake molds.
That's not cake mix, Paul. That's spackle that you would use to lay down bricks. Cake batter should not look like it's behaving as a non-Newtonian fluid when you scoop it out of the bowl.
After you've put your cake mixture in your molds, what you want to do is, as you can see, it's running out at the bottom there, so to prevent that, we put an heavy object on, in this case a wrench, and an impact screwdriver.
Yeah, let's just put our wrench and our screwdriver in the oven with these baked bean cans full of cake mix. Why not, Paul? Why not?
Just balance that on there. Then you put it in oven for about 1.5 hours on gas mark 4.
For 1.5 hours? Your average cake that's like a 9 by 12 maybe should only take 30 to 40 minutes, maybe in the 50s maximum, depending on the size of it. It should not take an hour and a half to... No, you know what? He's just being accurate to the theme, because the longer he keeps it in the oven, the more rock-like the cake will become. Of course.
An hour and a half later, and this is what happens when you put cake mix into 4 bean things. It's overflowed a bit. I haven't managed to stop it overflowing.
Am I passing out? Why is the audio fading away?
Rescue these from bean tins and see what we've got. Hindsight, what I should have really...
The greatest comedic directors of all time could not possibly create a moment to compare to the enjoyment I just got out of that jump cut transition. Paul has gotten one of the towers, steeples, whatever you want to call them, out of the tin and placed it on top of what appears to be the crumbled remaining half of his previous cake.
There's one I mounted earlier just to work out method of doing it. And it's...
I know that there was a little bit of tinfoil and stuff stuck on the cans, but listen to that cracking and scraping sound when he's swirling the knife around. Your cake should not be making those sounds, even in an instance where your cake does have like some slightly crispy edges on the side of the pan.
And
it sounds like he's cracking bones.
But once you see overall effects, it should turn out quite well.
We're either witnessing the miracle of childbirth right here, or something that I would normally get demonetized for showing on YouTube.
Freestanding turret. And what you need to do next is carve a niche out. Just tight camera focus here. What you need to do next is carve a niche out in top of your cake for your turret to balance on.
I hate to tell you this, buddy, but there's not a spot that you have to carve out anything for, because that part of the cake has already collapsed in on itself. Even my sandcastles that I made as a kid, in hindsight, would probably look more appetizing than this.
Just put your piece in, and there's a bit hanging over edge. And all you need to do is just cram that in like that. Just use it as putty or cement, if you will, if you like.
The cake is so moist and dense and moldable that he is using it as ceiling clay to adhere his towers to the original base of the cake. This is not cake. This is that magic sand that you would buy for your 5-year-old kid that they get bored of after 10 minutes.
And just put that in with your fingers. And hopefully that should stand, but
I think we've seen Paul manhandle these turrets long enough. Can we see the end result, Paul, please?
the castle cake, suitable for any party.
It's definitely a type of castle, one of those dilapidated, falling apart castles that you'd see in, like, Ireland. Correct me if I'm wrong. Aren't those the Australian flag? Historically, as far as I can recall, I mean, Australia had a huge, horrible history of English colonization, but I don't think that there were ever any castles built in the country? Let me double check. So apparently it does seem like there were a few historical castles built in Australia. Most of them were in the late 1800s, and a lot of the currently standing ones are either replicas of previously existing castles or just replicas of a castle in general for the, like, tourist experience.
As you can see, I've decorated it in Smarties, and I put some flags on top, and you might wonder why I've used Australian flags.
Yeah, I was wondering that, Paul.
Considering there's no castles in Australia.
Well, like I just said,
Well, this project is about using whatever comes to hand, and we're just knocking about, basically.
I understand just using whatever you have lying around the house. Wouldn't it be more common still for you to have the UK flag over the Australian flag lying around?
And there you have it. Castle cake. Of course, you can have it any colour you want. And it looks a bit like a sandcastle at end of day, but it is quite edible. And thanks for watching.
Yeah, Paul, I'd also describe my food as being quite edible at the end of the day. And that, folks, is where we're going to end for today. Thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a comment down below if you have any other specific Paul videos, TV shows, movies, anything you think is weird or interesting that you want me to take a look at. A huge shout out to our Patreon supporters as well. If you want to sign up for the Patreon, you can click on the link in the description down below. You can also sign up for the Patreon right now to vote in this month's Patreon poll of the month. Finally, as always, thanks y'all for supporting and sticking around. I hope to see y'all in the next one, and Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. I'll see you folks in the new year. See ya.